We all know Dubai's expensive, but how expensive is it really? I've got my bank statements, my tenancy contract, my electricity and water bills, and I'm gonna tell you how expensive Dubai really is. Your biggest expense every month is going to be your rent. I will say that I rented my apartment a couple of years ago, so my rent is relatively low, but if you're renting now, expect things to be about 20% more than the numbers that I'm saying. I live in Al Furjan in a 1-bedroom, 2-bath apartment, and I pay 54,000 dirhams a year as my rent. It's broken up per month as 4,500 dirhams a month, but in Dubai, they ask you to pay it in checks. I gave my rent in 3 checks of 18,000 dirhams, but you can pay it in up to 6 checks. Depending on where you live, sometimes the less checks you pay, the more negotiating power you have with your rent. So if you say, hey, I'm gonna pay it in 1 check or 2 checks, they have a possibility of bringing your rent down. My landlord did not do that, so I paid in 3 checks of 18,000. However, every time I get my salary, I take 4,500 dirhams, which is my monthly rent, and I move it into a different savings account that's my rent savings. So when that check gets deducted, that money is already sitting somewhere. So 4,500 a month on rent is my first one. Next, you have your DEWA bill. This is your Dubai electricity, your water, and your monthly maintenance. This bill changes every single month depending on what your consumption looks like, but for a single person living alone, I pay somewhere between 500 and 600 dirhams a month. Here's my DEWA bill. If you look at my DEWA bill, we have 318, that's just electricity and water, and then the second box that you see, that's Dubai Municipality. This number is normally fixed. I also live in a chiller-free building, which means I don't pay for AC, but if you do, you have a separate bill from a company called Empower, where you're paying kind of for your chiller services. Summer months are always going to be more expensive than winter months. It's just a consumption thing. So in the summer, my AC is blasting all day long. However, in the winter, I can manage without the AC during the day. However, I have my AC on every single night at 18 on fan 3, so it should just give you a small idea. Gas is a little bit of a weird one. I pay around 200 dirhams for gas once a quarter, so I assume that's around 50 dirhams a month on average, but I'm cooking maybe once or twice a day something as simple as eggs and a light dinner. I do order up quite a bit, so it's a mix and match. I'm someone who you could assume is like a low user of gas. Next is going to be your phone bill. I'm a full-time corporate girlie and a part-time content creator, so I have the Etisalat Freedom 375 plan. I pay 375 dirhams a month. I think this is way too expensive. There are a lot of cheaper plans out there. However, number 1, I'm a yapper. I talk on the phone all the time and I need an insane amount of minutes. Number 2, I don't make any international calls, so that's not factored into my plan. And number 3, I work on the go. So I'm always making content in the car, on the way to work, on the way back from work, which is why I have a plan that gives me a lot of data. You can opt for a Abdu plan or a Virgin plan that'll give you something that's a lot more reasonable, but this is a plan that just ended up working for me. Next is your home Wi-Fi. Very important to me, I use the Do Starter Home Light Kit. This is great. I have 1 smart TV, 2 laptops, and 2 phones. They can all be on at the same time, and I never have issues with my internet. I paid 251 dirhams a month. I normally put it on auto pay, but this number has been negotiated down. When you move into a house, you get a package. My pro tip is if you've been in the plan for a while and you try to opt out and cancel, while you're in that process of canceling, they'll actually offer you a cheaper plan and then you can switch. I did it and it worked, although it saved me like 30 dirhams a month on a yearly basis. That's like almost 400 plus dirhams, so I'm happy with it. Now, I don't have the bill for the next one, but I'm quite OCD when it comes to my house. I'm trying to maintain that clean girl aesthetic, and everything in my house is white. If you want a house tour, let me know in the comments. But for me, cleaning is essential. So I have a maid, her name is Elizabeth. She comes twice a week, and I pay her 500 dirhams. The way she works is she doesn't charge me per hour. She just charges a fixed salary of 500 to come twice a week and clean till the house is clean. That could be 1 hour, 3 hours, 5 hours, it doesn't matter. At the same time, because she's a salaried employee, if I go on holiday or I'm not in town, her salary is still being paid. One of my biggest things is I can never get my house cleaned when I'm in the house. It just really frustrates me, and I love the feeling of coming back to a clean home. So my maid is one of the most trustworthy people. She cleans my home. She also cleans my parents' home. So she has a key to my house and she comes into the house on the days I go to the office. That way, when I come back, my house is completely clean. If I'm on holiday, she comes into my home and she can just make sure that everything's up and running before I get back. She's actually like my biggest lifesaver, so I highly recommend you find someone you trust. I don't have a washing machine. This is like a conversation for another day. So her scope of work does not include any laundry work. It also does not include any kind of cooking. If you do want those services, you'll often have to pay a little bit more. I have done a lot of research in this space, and the cheapest alternative to a fixed cleaner is using a service like Just Life, where you're paying for cleaning hourly. However, it seems to be that I have a more affordable cleaner than that. That's around, I think it's $39 an hour, and there's a minimum booking of 2 to 3 hours. I get my house cleaned twice a week. If I did this with Just Life, I'd be paying around $750, for which I'm paying $500. One thing I will say is if you're going to use a service like a Just Life, like an urban company, where they're sending a third party into your home and it's probably a different service provider every single time, you probably want to be home just for the sake of safety, to watch them clean, to make sure that everything stays in order. For me, that's one thing I'm not willing to do. So having a cleaner on a fixed salary for me makes the world of a difference when it comes to your peace of mind. Now, when you have a house, it's going to be filled with things. I keep a flex budget of $250 for miscellaneous items that I need for my house. Oftentimes, those are cleaning supplies, those are restocking my shampoos and conditioners, or toilet paper, Kleenexes. There's so many things that go unnoticed that just keep a flex budget for. The next expense that I count as a fixed expense is my allowance for groceries. So I keep 500 dirhams a month as a grocery allowance for everything that I want to have in the house. This does not account for the food that I order in from outside or when I go out to eat. I think I'll do a separate video on just lifestyle expenses because those really change depending on my mood, depending on the season. For example, now in December, I'm going out a lot more than I would during the summer. Next, we have my gym membership. I go to Train Strength and Fitness. The membership is 525 dirhams a month, and that includes unlimited access to the gym. However, there are no gym classes in my gym, and there are very limited amenities. It just so happens to be the place that I love. It's the place that I train. So that is something I fix into my budgeting every single month. Just to add into my expenses, although it's not really a Dubai related expense, I have a couple of subscriptions that help me live my life and make my content, such as Video Leap, Canva. These things cost me around 100 dirhams a month for the multiple services that I have, not to mention around another 100 for my Netflix, for my Disney Plus, and my Apple TV. This big stack here, this is my bank statement. Every month, I get a look at my bank statement. I normally do this digitally, but it helps me look at what the breakdown of my expenses is and where they're coming from. So for me, my biggest expenses every single month, rent aside, is transportation. I don't have a driver's license in Dubai, which is why you don't see any accounts here for gas, for cars, for car insurance, and for Salik. This is something that I'm working on. In the meantime, I take an obscene amount of taxis every month. I'm still too embarrassed to share this number, but after looking at it, I need to get a driver's license ASAP, or all my money is just going to go down in taking public transportation. So my fixed budget as a single woman living in a single bedroom in Dubai is 7,735 dirhams a month. I like to round this up to 8,000 just for a little bit of buffer. This 8,000 dirhams just keeps my house running on a day-to-day basis. What it does not account for is transportation, going out to eat, lifestyle flex expenses that change, like I said, on the basis of seasonality or just my mood. My biggest learning is that Dubai has a lifestyle for every single budget. It might not be what you see on social media. Everyone has parameters. I have friends who are living with their parents, so the 4,500 dirhams I allocate every month towards rent is not an expense that they have. Maybe that means they spend more on shopping. Maybe that means they spend more on traveling. Maybe that means their savings are more than mine are. But their living situation is different. There are also people who are paying 500 to 2,500 dirhams a month for shared accommodation. This could be sharing an apartment with someone, this could be sharing a room with someone, or this could be sharing a room with multiple someones. Again, it all depends on what your budget is. So is Dubai as expensive as they say it is? My answer is no. The biggest thing is you just need to learn to live within your means. If you start looking at what other people drive and what other people wear and what other bags people are carrying, if you start looking at how people are spending their money and where they're going out to eat, and you start living beyond your means, you start putting things on your card that you can't afford to pay, you start doing things in life that are beyond your means, you will run into a space where you find things too expensive. But I found here, you can get a car chai for 2 dirhams or you can get an iced latte for 36 dirhams. It's up to you to decide which of the two fits within your means. Or you can be like me, get a coffee machine and stop buying iced lattes from outside your home. I wanted to start this channel to create a safe space for women in Dubai who are interested in budgeting, saving, investing, and just creating a space where you're actually growing your generational wealth. I think there are too many people here, and I don't think it's a bad thing, who live for today. But I'm someone who's trying to build my generational wealth. So I have 4 sources of income, and I like to budget them in a certain way that I can live for today. I get to travel a little bit, I get to have fun, I'm growing my income, I'm growing in life, but also I'm creating stable investments and savings for my future. Let me know if you want to see lifestyle expenses, other sources of income, or living in Dubai. If this sounds like you, subscribe to my channel because I promise 2025 there's a lot of content coming.